influence that I'm going to have on the policy is how do you bring people together and work for a future. And for those disagreements we have, let's keep working on it until we get there. And we may not agree on 100%, but let's start off at 20 or 30% that we agree on. Maybe we can grow it to 50, maybe we can grow it to 60 or 70. But that's the kind of policymaker that I would be in Washington. Clearly, that's the voting record that I've had in the city of DeLong. Thank you.
So we're going into our closure, 3-minute closure. So we'll go ahead and go ahead. Thanks,
We've talked about a number of things here this evening, but clearly, getting our economy going again and creating good jobs for our citizens, for all Americans, is what we need to be focused on in the next few years. That is our #1 problem, without exception. I think that's something we all agree on. How do we get there? Well, I think we need to do a few things. First of all, the cost of the federal government has doubled in the last 10 years. Think about that. Think about that in your personal lives, your business lives. If your expenses had doubled and you didn't have any meaningful revenue growth, you'd be either in bankruptcy or heading towards it. 10 years is an interesting period because that's 6.5 years under the Republican administration and 3.5 years under a Democrat administration. So regardless of what party you're affiliated with, it's not the other party's fault. They have done this together, maybe one at a time, but they have both brought us to where we are today. So I think we need to do a few things. First of all, I think it's reasonable to say when you've doubled the cost in 10 years, you need to cut costs. I also think it's reasonable to say if your deficit spending 40%, you can't cut 40%. I couldn't imagine doing that in the city of Long Beach, cutting 40% without having some pretty devastating consequences. So you can't cut that much, but you do need to cut. And that also shows the people you're trying to do something meaningful. You're trying to trim, you're trying to get rid of some bureaucracy, you're trying to cut some fat, eliminate waste. You should do those things. You should do it always, but you should particularly do it in a troubled economy. Next thing, though, is we're going to have to generate more revenue. You cannot cut all your way there. Some people may like to. You cannot cut all your way there. You need to generate some revenues. But I'm going to tell you, increasing taxes does not immediately come to my mind as the solution of generating revenues. I think generating revenues is growing our economy. I think everybody benefits in a growing economy. If you're unemployed, you have an opportunity to get a job as unemployment comes down. If you're underemployed, you have an opportunity to get a better job. If you're stuck mid-career, more opportunities will come your way because your company will be growing and will be expanding. And by the way, if you're at the top, you're senior management, you're a shareholder, you're the owner of a small business, and your company does pretty well, you're going to be better off too. But I think that's the American way. I don't think it's a class warfare. We want these people to do well. We don't want those people. Let's punish these at the expense of those. That's not who we are as a people. I think what we want is we want a level playing field for everybody, and we want the opportunity for everybody to do better. And that's my vision of the future. And I thank you all again for your time this evening.
First, I want to, I think you've gotten a chance to get to know both of us, to get to know me, and first I want to thank you all. I am very appreciative. I'm more than appreciative. I'm really humbled that I have this opportunity to go to the United States Congress. I cannot imagine that a college professor, community activist, somebody that really cared about neighborhood protection possibly could go to the Congress of the United States. It's just unbelievable for me if I'm so fortunate to have that happen. And so I really just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think it's just, and I think I deserve it, because I think I've worked real hard for you. I've listened to people, and I've tried to implement practical solutions. I am known as a problem solver. I also agree with Gary that jobs are our first priority. We've got to get the country moving again. But there's really a difference here. Remember, Gary is running as a Republican, I'm running as a Democrat. President Obama has put on the table that the way we reduce our deficit and the way we get going again as a nation is, one, to support the Americans with Jobs Act. That is that balanced approach. That he could not get that out of the House of Representatives. Republicans would not vote for that. The second thing is, let's remember that the president and myself are calling for a balanced approach. We can't do it just with cuts alone. We must ask those that we must have a fair tax policy. That's what we're asking for. Everybody must have shared responsibility. We do not have a policy such as what the Republican Party is saying, even though Gary is saying he would be for balance. Remember, what the Republican Party is saying is, no, we shall have a trickle-down theory. Cut the taxes for the rich, cut them. Reduce regulations, and it will trickle down to the public. That is the choice. That's what both parties stand for. Obviously, we have to talk to each other. Obviously, we have to work together. But there are clear differences between the two parties. It is your responsibility to study the issues and figure out where you are. Thank you.
Thank all of you for coming out this evening. We want to remind you to vote. We also want to say that we're very fortunate to have two stewards from our community, two great individuals like this running in our district. So please remember to get out and vote. So thank you everybody for coming.